All right. Good evening and welcome to the Savannah Jaycees Candidate Forum. I'm Leandria Michael, the current president of the Savannah Jaycees. The Jaycees are a leadership development organization for professionals 21 to 40. Our mission is professional development through community involvement. Tonight is an opportunity for you to learn more about the candidates running to represent you as Public Service Commissioner and at the Senate level. All candidates for the upcoming runoff election have been invited. We are pleased to welcome the City of Savannah's Mayor, Van Johnson, and Chatham County Commissioner Chairman-elect, Chester Ellis. We are live streaming on Facebook via the Savannah Jaycees, the Georgia Jaycees, JCI USA, the Metropolitan Savannah Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, WSAV, and their affiliates. To our audience, we thank you for joining us. If you're watching on Facebook, please feel free to share the live feed so that your network can engage, as we will have question and answer at the end. We are honored to have with us Bowen serving as moderator, and I will turn the presentation over to him.
Thank you, Leandria. Good evening. I'm Bowen of the Bowen Law Group, and I want to thank the Savannah Jaycees for inviting me to serve as the moderator this evening. As Leandria mentioned, we've invited all of the candidates in the upcoming election to participate, and joining us tonight will be Mayor Van Johnson, Chatham County Commissioner Chairman-elect Chester Ellis, Public Service Commission incumbent Lauren Bubba MacDonald, and Public Service Commission candidate Daniel Blackman. Finally, we'll also have with us Erica Pine, Senior Advisor of the Reverend Warnock for Georgia campaign. Now, as far as the format for tonight, I'll begin with a short question and answer session with each participant, and then we'll have everyone back at the end to take questions from all of you, the viewers. So we have people monitoring the comments for questions, so please be sure to include any questions you may have in the event's Facebook feed, and we'll get to as many of them as possible this evening. So let's start off this evening with Savannah Mayor Van Johnson and Chatham County Chairman-elect Chester Ellis. So good evening, gentlemen, and thank you both so much for participating in tonight's forum.
Thank you so much. Good to see you.
I want
for
to
inviting me.
Absolutely. I want to talk with both of you about the importance and the potential impact of this upcoming January 5th, 2021 runoff election and the impact it could potentially have on the city of Savannah and Chatham County. So let's start with you, Mayor Johnson. How do you see this election potentially impacting the city of Savannah?
Well, I think, and again, thank you for the opportunity for you and the Jaycees to be a part of this. This election is monumental, not only for the city of Savannah specifically, but the state of Georgia and the country. What a consequential election as it relates to what is happening in Georgia. The entire balance of power in the United States Senate depends on what happens in Georgia. Specifically to your question as it relates to the city of Savannah, unfortunately for far too long, the city of Savannah and Chatham County in general, the coastal area of the state, I think has been largely forgotten because always it appears as if the senators and senator candidates have always seemed to focus within the Beltway, within 285, within Metro Atlanta. And I submit to you that Georgia is much larger than that. So Savannah and Chatham County, we're larger than just the ports. We're larger than just our military bases. We're larger than just our river and our beaches. We are communities comprised of people, and we think that we should be able to have more effective representation from our senators as they fight and work with us in Washington, D.C. More specifically, recently, I've been mayor of Savannah now almost a year. I have never spoken to Senator Loeffler or to Senator Perdue. We've reached out, we sent letters, we've asked for funding for CARES Act and HEROES Act and a variety of things. And they've never reached out. And so for us, it's important. We want senators who know where Savannah is. We want senators that are going to understand Savannah's issues, and they're going to be responsive to Savannahans and Savannah's needs. That's why this election is so important.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. I appreciate that. Same question for you, Mr. Ellis. How do you feel like this election is consequential for Chatham County?
It's extremely important for Chatham County with this upcoming election. as Mayor Johnson said, and I concur. 2 years ago, when I attended the National Conference of Counties, I reached out to our senators then, and I reached out to Ms. Lofton after she became appointed. And we were trying to untie some monies that could have come to Chatham County that could help us. And one of the things that we were extremely interested in was the coastal regional flooding as it appears with the tide rising and the sea rising. And so we wanted to work with them, and the money was available, but we just could not get them to turn it loose. We could not get it on the Senate floor, no matter how hard we try, because no matter where you live in Chatham County, it floods. And so in the unincorporated areas, in the municipalities, we all have a common problem. And so therefore, all of the mayors, along with the chairman, should work towards solving that problem, because as the ocean rise, we get more and more problems. As we look at global warming, Chatham County has more and more problems. You know, when I was a young boy, we never thought about a tornado coming through here. We knew hurricanes would come, but not tornadoes. And just in the last 5-6 years, we've had 3 to come through Chatham County. And so having the resources to be prepared for those kinds of storms, along with the hurricane kind of storm, and now even the pandemic, trying to get funds loose in the Senate has been a challenge for us. But we have not given up, because the last figures that I had just 3 weeks ago is there is still $53 billion tied up in the relief package that have not come this way. And we're trying to figure out how to get that loose.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ellis. I appreciate that. Mayor Johnson, as you mentioned, and as hard as it is to believe, this is still only your first year in office as mayor of Savannah. Needless to say, you have faced an unprecedented set of challenges. And Chairman-elect Ellis, you obviously are going into your first year as chairman. Now, we all know that the relationship between the city of Savannah and Chatham County sometimes has been great, sometimes it's been a little rocky. So the two of you, of course, have a chance to forge your own path now. So thus my question for both of you is, how do you foresee the city and county working together in the coming year to deal with the many challenges we're now facing? Let's start with you, Chairman-elect Ellis.
Yes, I see it as very important that we work hand in hand, because I believe in the old philosophy, together we stand, right? Divided we fall. There are challenges that the county will have that we will definitely need, not only the city of Savannah, but all of the municipalities in the county to be a part of the solution, right? Drainage is one that I can think of that comes to mind. And so we have to be able to sit at the table and reason with one another. That doesn't say we're gonna always agree, but we will come out with an agreeable solution to what our problems are, because one and the same, the problems are the same in the unincorporated area as well as in the incorporated area of the county. So we have to have that partnership. We have to have those memorandums of understanding, those intergovernmental agreements, so that we can get some of these challenges done.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Same question for you, Mayor Johnson. How do you see the county and the city working together in 2021?
Well, I'm excited about what is to happen. I've always enjoyed a very close working relationship with Chatham County. I am a recently 25-year retiree of Chatham County. So I still receive a check every month that says Chatham County. I have enjoyed very good relationships with the entire county body, to include the Board of Commissioners, and certainly with Chairman-elect Ellis when he served as one of the neighborhood presidents in my former district. I think that it's very, very clear that the city is in the county. And so although the city and the county have different functions, we serve the same people. And so it behooves us, and I think our citizens expect for us to create opportunities to work together. One of the things that I'm very passionate about is that for years, the city of Savannah has been really the driver, the funder of social service agencies and cultural affairs funding throughout the entire county. And we do that, and that's really a county function. When you look at issues like homelessness, those are really more county functions. And so for us, this is an opportunity to find willing partners to work with us. Certainly, we think we might have the bandwidth, but I think we could really have people to help with those burdens. And then again, on the chairman's end, issues of drainage, it affects one, it affects all. So I think we can find opportunities for us to be able to work together. And I'm certainly looking forward to being able to do that.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. And just have one final question for both of you. Obviously, 2020 has had some challenges, and I'd like to end our session with the two of you on a more positive note. What do you believe is the biggest positive opportunity we have in 2021? So, Mayor Johnson, let's begin with you.
The biggest opportunity I think that we have is that we have seen the resiliency of Savannah. In the midst of everything that's been going on, in the midst of very difficult times and trials, we have seen the best of Savannah. We have seen citizens coming out, helping each other. We've seen food donations. We've seen people looking out for their neighbors. We have seen new businesses sprout up. Matter of fact, some businesses have faced their best times ever during this pandemic. Some businesses have changed focus. And so for us, this is a way for us, and the city has found ways to be able to work more efficiently, to work more effectively. We've established what's called parklets in parking spaces so restaurants can do dining outside. That proved to be hugely successful. We have found ways to meet via Zoom. So we've been able to do more meetings and really be more responsive and be more engaging. So I think, although 2020 was a very, very rough year, I think we emerged from it being stronger. We emerged from it being wiser. We emerged from it wanting to find ways to help our most vulnerable populations. This time has exacerbated those issues, and I think we're all resolved to be better neighbors and be better citizens as we help everyone to live their best lives.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. Same question for you, Chairman-elect Ellis. What do you believe is the biggest positive opportunity in 2021?
But I think the biggest positive happened. We took the first step this morning. Mayor Johnson and I were at the manufacturing facility that will come online during 2021. And we had the ribbon cutting this morning, and those are manufacturing jobs that will pay anywhere from $22 an hour and up. Our challenge now in the next 18 months will be to get our workforce ready so that we have jobs for our young people. We want to stop the exodus. Our young people grew up in Savannah, go to college, and then go other places to live rather than staying here because they can't get those kinds of jobs that we are seeking. And so I think one of the biggest challenges and one of the most glorious things that's going to happen in 2021 is when we announce those companies that are coming, and we announce those jobs that they are bringing to us. And then we announce that we have the workforce that's ready to take those jobs. So we are interested in bringing up the least of us. We know that there are deprived areas in Chatham County, and I don't hide that fact that Chatham County has a dirty face, but we have the tools and we have the resources to wash our face and to clean it up. And so when we get more of our citizens involved in getting them in jobs that they can handle, then we can have those houses that not only are affordable houses, but are income-based houses, and we get them in that we can take care of the homeless population. Those are the positive things I see coming out of December of 20 into January and also down to December of 2021. We're going to be working day and night to make sure those things are accomplished and to make sure that we are all on the same page. And so on the west side, we're getting ready for the Savannah Chatham manufacturing hub to come in and to get those kinds of jobs here. So the future look bright, and it's not only bright because of the port, not only because the bigger ships are coming, but because better jobs are coming. And so we have to make sure that our citizens here in Chatham County are ready to take those jobs so that we don't have to import folks in to take those jobs.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ellis. I want to thank both of you for your service and time tonight. We're currently taking questions online, and we'll be back to address those with you at the end. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So next, I'm very excited to welcome the current Public Service Commissioner, Lawrence Bubba MacDonald, and his opponent in the January 5th runoff, candidate Daniel Blackman. Thank you very much for joining us, gentlemen. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. With us, Commissioner MacDonald.
Now,
There he is.
I
So,
thought you got nervous. You there?
no, I'm not nervous, Daniel. You know better than that.
now, according to the website, and I will admit that I wasn't as familiar with the Georgia Public Service Commission as I should be, but I was very interested to read that the Georgia Public Service Commission has the exclusive power to decide what are fair and reasonable rates for services under its jurisdiction. It's got to balance the needs of the citizens of Georgia for reliable services and reasonable rates with the needs for the utilities to earn a reasonable return on their investments. So in other words, Commission is charged with protecting consumers and their interest while abiding by legal standards and setting rates and also protecting the utilities. So I want to welcome both of you. It's obviously a very important position. Thank you for being here. What I'm going to do, the format is I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I'm going to ask you to kind of think of it as a lightning round because we only have limited time. And I'm going to ask that you try to limit your answers to each question to 1 minute. We'll also have 1 minute for you each to give a closing statement prior to taking questions from our viewers at the end. So to begin, we'll start with softball. Can you please tell us a little about yourself and why you are running for Georgia Public Service Commission? Commissioner MacDonald, let's start with you.
Well, I want to thank the people of Georgia for allowing me to serve them on the Georgia Public Service Commission. We have my experience as a business owner all my adult life. I've met payrolls in good times and bad times. And then I've also had the opportunity to serve as the chairman-elect for the Chatham County Commission. I started out as a county commissioner in Jackson County, Georgia. I served 20 years in the State House of Representatives, and I was appointed to the commission by then Governor Zell Miller, who filled an unexpired term on the Public Service Commission. And it's been my pleasure to do that. And I'm seeking re-election for a couple of three reasons. Number one is that the people of Georgia, all the people of Georgia, need this independent conservative voice on the Georgia Public Service Commission. We have a fiduciary responsibility to our vertically integrated utilities. Also, we have the responsibility, Bo, as you said, about protecting the consumers of Georgia. One of the big projects on our platter right now, of course, is finishing these two new nuclear plants. First nuclear plants in the United States in over 37 years. And what they're going to do, Mr. Ellis talked about the job programs and business coming to Chatham County and Savannah area. When a scout comes into your community, you don't know that they're there. He or she is looking at your transportation infrastructure, looking at many things. But one of the three things they're looking at is what is my energy cost and what is the reliability? What is the reliability of? And because of our diversified generation program in the state, both gas and electricity, we fill that program to the top. And that's what they like.
Thank you, sir. Same question for you, Mr. Blackman. Could you tell us a little about yourself and why you're running for the commission?
Yeah, first and foremost, to all those who are here, I want to first thank you for the opportunity, to the mayor, to the commissioner-elect, to all of you, to Bubba. I think it's important for us to have this conversation and be a part of this process, seeing that we are, quote unquote, the third runoff, and I'm very privileged to be a part of this conversation. My name is Daniel Blackman. I grew up in Columbus, Georgia. Very proud to be the son of a United States Army Ranger. So to the military families watching, I want to thank you for your service. To the working families that are paying attention to this conversation, you are looking at someone who's been on the front line of the fight for working families for a long time. I've been very privileged to work on policy around the United States from an energy policy standpoint. We've worked on climate change. I believe in science. I believe that as patterns change in our weather, as there are challenges in our communities, when crises like COVID-19 hit, I believe that we have to fundamentally put ourselves in a position to not respond, but to be prepared rather than having to respond so many times and too often. I was not only appointed to 2 separate initiatives out of Washington that dealt with the Obama administration's Clean Power Plan, but also in mitigating the climate fight in low and moderate income communities. I was basically invited prior to the Paris Climate prior to the signing of the Paris Climate Accords to witness the global reach that this country has had that we have not had over the past 4 years. And I'm very happy to be a part of a conversation that can expand renewable energy in this state. I'm very proud to use my background on the investment side to drive investment into our communities and to make sure that, as it was stated earlier, we don't just focus our center points on Metro Atlanta. This is a state that consists of 159 counties. We can no longer measure our viability based on Metro Atlanta by leaving Chatham County out, Muskogee County, or any of our coastal counties in Georgia, even those rural areas in North Georgia where I reside. So I'm very much happy to be a part of this conversation, and I'm looking forward to the January 5th election.
Thank you, Mr. Blackman. And for the next question, I'll begin with you. Do you believe the expansion of broadband internet access is important? And if so, why?
Well, you know, it's interesting we get to start off with that question because when Mr. MacDonald just spoke, he talked about companies and individuals that come into our counties when we know and when we don't know. And he mentioned energy and viability, but he didn't mention the expansion of broadband. I don't think that there is a company in the United States that wants to go into an area that lacks high-speed internet and wireless broadband, that lacks telecommunications. Too many of our senior citizens rely on telemedicine. What we've seen this year is that our children and our grandchildren, namely those who are around this state in our poor zip codes, our low and moderate income families, their children are at home right now. Some of them would like to watch this feed, but they don't have the internet connectivity to be able to do so. And we need to fundamentally focus on the investments that can be driven by the PSC and the responsibility we have, not just to be able to make these utility companies profitable, but to make sure that all of our counties and our children have a chance to compete. We're not doing that. And when you have utility shutoffs, like in Georgia right now, because our moratorium ended on July 15th, you have children that can't learn because their lights are off. And a person's income should never determine their children's outcome. And I believe right now that if we don't expand wireless broadband, especially with the challenges that we faced, we're going to lose an entire generation of Georgians, regardless of their race or background, but based on their zip code.
Thank you, Mr. Blackman. Same question to you, Commissioner MacDonald.
The only thing I can say to that, we're all wanting the expansion of broadband and internet. But Daniel, you're running for the wrong office to do that. You need to be running for Congress or the state legislature, because our charge at the Public Service Commission, we have no governance over the internet nor the broadband, because it is interstate, and that's the FCC that regulates those issues out there, as well as cell telephones. Now, we are in the midst of a legislative mandate on pole attachments for the broadband companies, i.e. whether it's Comcast or AT&T or the telephone associations of Georgia, but it has to be a company that's not affiliated with an EMC, but they are paying to attach to their posts so that those children can be served out there. But as far as us telling Georgia Power that you've got to get an internet business, or AT&T, which is a deregulated telecom company done by Congress years ago, we do have 13 independent telephone companies in the state of Georgia that we rate regulate. We don't rate regulate EMCs in Georgia. So there's a define of what we can do under the governance of the laws. We don't make the laws. but we have to abide by the laws that are being made. And that's where, yes, I support the internet. I support the broadband expansion, but I can only support it in the way that the legislative body gives us the responsibility to do it with.
I'd like an opportunity to rebuttal.
Sure, you can have 20 seconds.
First, I'll take the compliment on running for Congress, but right now I'm focused on running for the Public Service Commission. And what I would say is that in this position, he just mentioned those 13 companies for pole attachment. We don't necessarily have to drive that investment, but Bubba, you and I both know that the Georgia State Legislature is right across the street. Leadership isn't saying what we can't do. That's being a part of the problem. Being a part of the solution is electing people that are willing to go outside of their purview and do their job. We understand that Georgia has not been connected, and you can say all you want that you can't have a say-so or no influence, but you and I both know that companies like AT&T, when this pandemic was announced, worked with Brian Kemp to make sure we expanded wireless hotspots. And even though you may not have a direct responsibility on that, you can work with those 13 companies to encourage them to do the right thing and to drive investments. It may not be on your resume, but you clearly know with as long as you've been in office that that's something that you can help drive around this state. And I'm not going to turn my back on anybody in the state of Georgia.
Commissioner MacDonald, any response?
Well, neither and I, Daniel, but I did when I took my oath of office. I took the oath of office to work within the framework of the Constitution that is responsible for the job of a public service commissioner. And with that said, there's a lot that we have to do when we don't really have time to go out there and do that other. We go to the General Assembly with issues when they ask about positions, whether it be telecom or what it might be, but we don't, I'm not going to go to the legislature and start telling them what they need to do over there, because they control the budget of the Public Service Commission. And having been over there, you gotta work from them and not to them.
Okay, I'm going to try to squeeze in two quick questions here before we have to move on due to time. So I'll start with you, Commissioner MacDonald, on this one. What is your personal philosophy, and what philosophy do you bring to the position in balancing the needs of the citizens with the needs of the utility companies?
Well, go back to 2013, I brought solar power to the state of Georgia. Georgia Power did not have 1 watt of solar energy in the 2013 Integrated Resource Plan. I brought 525 megawatts into that program. Today, Georgia is in the top 10 in solar development in the United States of America. And what it has done, it's being done with no state subsidies and no upward pressure on the ratepayer. It's been a market driven, and that comes from a capitalistic, conservative approach to solar energy. It's the EMCs now of getting very involved in solar development. We have the biomass that's involved with all the timber that we have in Georgia and the roughage that comes off of that. So that's another program in diversification of energy. When you go back to, as Daniel said about the coastal area, we just approved a stranded asset in Savannah where the old generation plant was there on the bay, on the river, to go to the Ports Authority so they can continue to expand the Ports Authority. When I was chairman of the Appropriations Committee in the legislature, I supported different crane operations that went to the ports. And when on the Public Service Commission, I was responsible for getting 3 area codes from then Commissioner Kennard at the FCC, and kept the coast of Savannah and coast of Georgia with the 912 area code, which was being competitive around in the whole southern part of the state. So those are some things that within the framework of what my responsibilities are that I've been able to do outside of Atlanta for the coast of Georgia.
Thank you, Commissioner MacDonald. Mr. Blackman, how do you see your role as balancing the needs of the utilities with the needs of the citizens of the state?
The balancing act has been, quite frankly, one-sided. If you ask me, for the last decade, we've seen one side be extremely profitable and the other side bear the brunt of overruns and poor decisions that have been made by my opponent. I mean, I'm not elected at the commission. I have not been at the table for all those decisions that were made, but the citizens of Georgia have been on the menu each and every time. You know, Mr. MacDonald just said the work he did with the 525 megawatts of solar. Look, that was a coalition that helped. And while I will give him credit for being a commissioner in place that has done some work to be able to establish that, there were individuals around this state, like the Sierra Club, who I'm endorsed by, groups like the Tea Party Patriots, who are Republican and I'm a Democrat. And you know what we did? We worked with groups to make sure that when Georgia Power, Bubba's Georgia Power, literally went out there and made sure that their 20-year integrated resources plan had not 1 ounce of solar in it. We made sure that coalitions were on the ground to make sure that individuals like the commissioner, who had been doing work, but you cannot solely take credit for the work that so many coalitions on the ground did. There were a lot of people that had a chance to be able to fight for that. When you look at the decisions that have been made as a result that have nothing to do with just the solar, we go back to 2009 with Plant Vogel, and you see that time after time, year after year, my opponent has voted for those overruns to be passed on to ratepayers. And it's not something that I'm sitting here making an accusation about. There are receipts for that. There are votes for that. So I think that we need to have a more balanced approach by doing what's right. Plant Vogel should have been capped a long time ago, rather than making sure that Georgia Power gets a blank check each and every time they say there's an overrun. We are currently facing a project that is 5 years behind schedule and $14 billion over budget. I don't see a balance there when ratepayers, consumers, and seniors on a fixed income are continuously paying for the mistakes that have been made and the decisions by people like Mr. MacDonald.
Well, in lieu of any rebuttals to that question, I'm going to ask you both to take 1 minute and give us a closing statement on what, if there's anything else you want to cover or any message that you want to give to the voters that may be watching this evening. Let's begin with you, Commissioner MacDonald.
Well, Daniel is so wrong about the solar program. So wrong. The Sierra Club, and I've known the Sierra Club, but Sierra Club had nothing to do with the 525 megawatts I put in the integrated resource plan. Number two, I would ask Daniel, if you're elected, are you going to stop the construction of the nuclear plants in Georgia? And who would ever thought Westinghouse would go bankrupt? Who would ever thought that we would have the tsunami with Fukushima when Toshiba was one of the partners with Westinghouse in the development? These things are obstacles that came into play that the commission had nothing to do with. But I can tell you one thing, the sun will be shining for the next 80 years in Georgia, and those solar programs are going to work for the people of Georgia. It's going to give us diversified generation. And the other thing is, when those 2 nuclear plants come online, they're going to provide cheap, clean, reliable energy for the next 80 to 100 years. That's what's going to happen for the people of Georgia. And that's what I'm looking forward to making happen.
Thank you, Commissioner MacDonald. Closing statement, Mr. Blackman.
So one, I'm not going to run away from the question. Bubba and I both know that I do not have the power to stop those constructions. So I'd like to make sure we stay on message and not speak to fears that quite frankly don't exist within people in this state that understand that while we may be having those 80 to 100 years of solar or of the sunlight, we have 60 years that we'll be paying off a nuclear facility right now where each and every year those overruns were passed on. You mentioned Westinghouse, but every since that time, we didn't learn from those mistakes. We didn't take the recommendations of staff or experts or scientists that were out there. What we did was we continued seeing Westinghouse fail to pass the overruns on to the people. So my question to you would be, why continuously vote to pass the overruns on if we saw failure in South Carolina? It makes absolutely no sense for us to have this approach to say what has worked when we're not going to acknowledge what has not. Georgia Power, with all due respect, employs a lot of people, and they've done a lot of things right in this state. But the bottom line is you have given them a blank check. You have not held them accountable when they should have been accountable. We have taken each and every challenge, whether it's coal ash or it's the cost overruns at Vogel. Each and every time we have had a chance to do the right thing, we have passed those costs onto ratepayers, not shareholders, onto ratepayers. And my closing statement in this conversation would be, you have an individual that has served for a very long time, that has been there for every vote, for every decision, for every challenge, and also for every opportunity. We know his record. We know the decisions he's made, and we see the burden on people around this state right now who are struggling to pay their bills, who are struggling because of the coal ash ponds in this state, who are struggling because of a nuclear plant that, yes, is the only one that's being constructed, but a nuclear plant that we're paying for on our bills. So at the end of the day, this isn't a race about a person's track record as a public service commission candidate as much as it is about the future of this state and how we are going to address the low and moderate income families in this state that can't access solar, that aren't able to lower their utilities and are struggling each and every day because their families don't get the same opportunities that people in Metro Atlanta do. So I'm here to run against Mr. MacDonald. The race is on January 5th. My name is Daniel Blackman, and I'd be honored to be your next public service commissioner.
Bo, I tried to stay within the framework of the time that you gave me. I didn't run for 2 minutes. I stayed within the framework. You know, all I want to say is this, closing up. I've not attacked my opponent like he just attacked me. I'm stating the facts. He's talking about some of those costs for the consumer. They were passed on by the legislature. Public Service Committee do that. The CWIP plan was a legislative act. The environmental cost that goes on your bill, it's passed on from the federal government. It's not by the Georgia Public Service, but we have some of the cheapest rates in electricity in the state of Georgia as there is in the nation, some 16% below the national average. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. I want to thank you both for your service and time tonight. Obviously, as I mentioned before, we're taking questions online and we'll be back to address those at the end. So the final portion of our forum tonight, prior to questions from our viewers, is an opportunity for you to meet Erica Pines, Senior Advisor of the Reverend Warnock for Georgia campaign. Now, as I mentioned before multiple times, all candidates were invited here this evening. So, Ms. Pines, we certainly want to thank you for making the time to be here with us tonight.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. First, I want to say thank you to the organizers, to the elected officials, to those who are running to be elected for joining us this evening. The Reverend would be here, but running a statewide campaign that has garnered so much national attention, we're now counting about 3,500 requests a day for him to appear. So we have his schedule jammed up from the morning until he puts his head on his pillow at night. So we did not want to abandon you all. We just want to send a surrogate, and I hope I do a good job with representing him. I want to start by saying that the Reverend is not running for U.S. Senate to enrich himself. His life of service has been about enriching others, about giving himself to others in the community, giving himself to others with his faith, and now he wants to give himself to others by representing the state of Georgia in the United States Senate. So we are running a campaign for everyone. We are running a campaign. He's running to represent working families. He's running for access to health care, running for access to educational opportunities for everyone, running a campaign for access to jobs, the economy, to protect military families. That's why he's running for office. He's not doing this for power. That's not who he is. That's not how he was raised. He's doing this to enrich the state of Georgia and enrich the United States of America by serving in the United States Senate.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. You know, Ms. Pines, anyone that's turned on the television over the last few months knows that Georgia has been blanketed with political ads.
Yes.
Many of Senator Loeffler's ads take quotes from Reverend Warnock's sermons and then state that he wants to defund the police and that he is anti-military based upon statements from his sermons. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to respond to the information contained in those ads.
We try not to run. We try not to talk about responses to negative things. We want to focus on the positive things. We know that the statement that they took about the military, his father was a highly ranked officer in the military. They took a Bible scripture that he was quoting from and just took that and spun it a certain type of way. So we're trying to run a campaign on the positives and what he's trying to do instead of a campaign on distractions is where we're trying to go with this race.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
How do you feel about, or how does Reverend Warnock feel about Georgia's response to the pandemic thus far, and what would he do to help those impacted?
Okay, I can't speak directly for what he would do. I can tell you what he said he's going to do. We think the response was poor. We see that the numbers, we're in a far worse position than where we were in March. When you look at the numbers in March, we were shocked when we had 1,000 cases a day. We thought everything was going crazy. The response was poor. Not having a mask mandate was terrible because the opposition, they chose to make the pandemic political versus making the pandemic about healthcare. We understand the urgency of getting him seated in the United States Senate so that we can begin to get relief and get aid to those who need it the most and help the president and the new vice president come up with a good response, because we know what it would take to slow this pandemic down. Wearing masks and social distances. That's not rocket science, it's just pure science. So we're anxious to get to January 5th so that we can begin to put into place sensible laws and mandates, and also to put into place relief for those people who are struggling, to those people who are suffering, to those people who need support now. We know they're out there. We see them every day. So we're just anxious to get seated so that we can begin to get relief to the people of Georgia.
Thank you, Ms. Pines. I want to save enough time for plenty of time to get questions from our viewers, but I do have two final questions for you.
Okay.
First, how would you respond to voters who are afraid that Reverend Warnock is going to support an attempt to raise their taxes?
I've not heard him say that he was going to raise taxes. Right now, we're in as far as voters are concerned, what we're seeing is people are so tied on political sides that people have chosen who they're going to vote for on January 5th. People are locked dead in their stance. So our goal right now is to get people to the polls, and this is a turnout game. They're like few undecideds or few people who are on the fence waiting for a debate to tell them who to vote for. Right now, we're making sure that our base go to vote. Like, I'm quite sure the opposition wants their base to go to vote. But being out here on the ground, we've had few people tell us that they're concerned about us raising taxes.
Okay. Final question for you, Ms. Pines. Again, thank you for being here. What can you tell us? Obviously, this is an event that has been put on by the Savannah Jaycees, which is the junior chamber. Can you tell us what Reverend Warnock is planning to do for Georgia's small businesses?
One, we want to hear from the small businesses. We know that a lot of small businesses have suffered. We know that our hotel workers are suffering. We know that our restaurant industry is suffering. We know that small business owners, they're suffering because of our poor response to this pandemic. So what we want to tell the small businesses is that we're in a hurry to get to January 5th so that this candidate can be seated in the United States Senate so that we can get relief to those small businesses who are suffering, who haven't been responded to in the appropriate way. So we just want to let you know that we have your back. Small business is the backbone of this society. When you look at those who are losing work, it's because of small business owners couldn't afford to keep them. And for a small business owner who is in touch with their people every day, these small business owners have direct relationships with their employees. They have dinner with their employees. They know when something is going on in those families. So they can see the suffering firsthand. And one of the most difficult decisions that a small business owner had to make during this pandemic is to lay people off. There are people who own small business who have cried, who are still with those families trying to pool resources together. So we want to say we're in a hurry to get to January 6th so that we can come back and provide some relief to those who are suffering.
Thank you so much for being here and spending time with us, Ms. Pines. We appreciate it. I'm going to now ask that everyone, including Leandria Michael, rejoin us on the screen. And Leandria and her team have been monitoring the questions from the viewers and will now share some of those questions with our guests. So Leandria, can you tell us what is our first question and to whom is it directed?
Okay, our first question is for Mayor Johnson and Chairman-elect Ellis. It is from the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and it's, would you consider approving funding to create local Hispanic/Latino, not minority, business assistance centers if data shows there's at least 7% of the Hispanic population in a given metropolitan area.
You wanted me to go ahead, or you wanted Mayor Johnson? Which one?
Either one.
But let me say, ever since I've been in elected office, I have worked hand in hand with the Hispanic community and to help them bridge some of the hurdles, because being an African American, I know that those hurdles exist. And so, yes, just like we have the Entrepreneur Center that will help African Americans and small businesses, we will also have that kind of program going to help those of our Hispanic nation.
Well, let me be a little more direct. At this point, Savannah is about helping small businesses. If we provide the resources to help small businesses, we end up helping everybody. As it relates to the city of Savannah, we, as the chairman-elect said, we have the Entrepreneur Center to help small businesses. We have a robust minority women business enterprise program that allows businesses that are deemed to be minority or women-owned to have access to city projects. We've extended our local percentage as it relates to minority contracts. If you're a local business in Savannah, you have a local preference as it relates to that. You know, the reality is for us in Savannah is that right now, our Hispanic Latino community is about 7%. So relatively small, but obviously growing. As it relates to other areas outside and around Savannah, there are more thriving Hispanic communities. We expect as the Hispanic community grows, those business opportunities will be able to grow as well. Upon being elected, I founded what was called OLA Savannah, Hispanic Outreach and Leadership a task force that is working with us to be able to create opportunities to make sure we're engaging effectively with our Hispanic community throughout and for all of their issues and concerns, and to build public engagement, not just in business.
Thank you so much. This question is for Ms. Pines. This is also from the Hispanic Chamber. Would you consider approving a bill that provides funding to create the Georgia State Office of Latino, not Minority Affairs?
I can't answer that for the senator. I can tell you that on our team, we have a very diverse group. We have the AAI team. We have the Latinx team that Luisa currently directs that team. We have been intentional about being intentional with our voters about minority issues. I can tell you that that can be a conversation. I can't say for sure because I, Erica Pines, don't know what it would take to do that. So I don't want to commit to that right now.
Thank you so much. We have a question for the candidates for Public Service Commissioner. What is Plant Vogtle and what do the ratepayers and voters need to know about it? And we can start with Mr. MacDonald.
The voters and the ratepayers need to know that Georgia Power is not the only owner of Plant Vogtle 3 and 4. It is owned by the 38 EMCs in Georgia, and it's owned by some electric cities in Georgia, and it's owned by Dalton Utilities. Georgia Power only owns 45.7% of Plant Vogtle. As scheduled right now, its Unit 3 is to come online in November of 21 and Unit 4 on November of 22. Yes, there's been problems that we've incurred. We have a cap on the spending. It's gone above budget. We all know that. But it still, again, is when you can't have one thing without the other. You can't have clean, carbon-free energy unless you build something that will generate energy that's carbon-free. And that's what we are doing with the nuclear plant. Georgia will have, with our solar programs, with our combined cycle natural gas, which does have, is a fossil fuel, but still it's a lot less than the coal. We're decommissioning some 12 coal units over the next few years in the state of Georgia. They are old, they're worn out, they're not economically retrofittable. So we're doing those things that make Georgia a very clean energy state. And Ms. Pines, I want to help you with one of your questions right there that you had. When I was in the legislature, I created the Small Business Development Center. It's in every community in the state of Georgia. It wasn't my vision. It was the vision of Dean Fluellen, the Dean of the Business School, University of Georgia. But I was the facilitator of carrying that resolution through the General Assembly, and it has helped minorities. It doesn't matter what color, what race, what creed, but it helps all small businesses throughout the state of Georgia. And that was part of something that was a plug in my book and when I was a state representative.
Thank you for that information.
Thank you, Ms. Pines, yes. And the mayors, you need to know that too, and the chairman-elect commission. It's there for you for that purpose. And one other thing, while I got the floor, as a business owner, and my son and daughter-in-law run the 3 funeral homes that we own, the only part I play in is I'm on the note, if you understand that. But also we have to generate the revenue to pay our electric bills, to pay our taxes, to pay our gas bill. We're not an agency that pays those bills for us, that gets the money from other places. We have to generate the revenue. And that's where we help the small business people in the state of Georgia. When we've had this virus going over the last year, we've stopped the disconnects for a long period of time. We stopped the penalty payments. We put in plans where people can pay for their energy costs over a long period of time with no penalties and no interest costs. That's helping people, and that's what we've done at the Georgia Public Service Commission.
Thank you so much, Mr. Blackman.
So in 2009, the Georgia legislative body voted on the expansion of what we know as Vogtle 3 and 4. This project was slated to be completed originally in 2017. My opponent just said 2021. There's information that it may not even come online in 2021. You can look the information up for yourself. And the challenge that we're facing is time after time and year after year, this current expansion that we know as Vogtle 3 and 4 has continuously put us in a position where we are being challenged over and over and over again with individuals that are struggling to pay their paycheck because they don't look at an itemized bill. They don't look at something called nuclear construction cost recovery that they've been paying for the last decade. It impacts our churches and impacts our mosques, our synagogues, our schools. We're paying for it. We're on the hook for it. Mr. MacDonald mentioned earlier the legislative body passing something called construction work in progress. That is absolutely true. We're actually paying for something that's not online, that's behind schedule, and that's costing us a whole lot of money. There are folks right now struggling, and when you factor in COVID-19 and the billions of dollars over budget it is, and the folks that are struggling just to keep their job, low and moderate income families who I continuously mentioned, I believe in working families. The AFL-CIO has endorsed us. So I want to protect workers that are there, but we want to also make fiscally responsible decisions. My opponent said that he's a independent conservative voice. There are a lot of Republicans and Democrats and Libertarians that are struggling to pay their bills because of the overruns at Plant Vogtle. And we all understand fundamentally that we've had opportunity after opportunity to address that issue, to change the narrative, and to make sure that ratepayers aren't overburdened with the challenges that we're facing there.
Mr. Black,
Like 20 seconds.
do you know who the workers are at Plant Vogtle? They're union workers. They're the people, the craft labor that's going down there. And if you want to shut them down, go back to your union and shut them down then. That's
when did I say I would shut them down, Mr. MacDonald? And if you check, I'm endorsed by the AFL-CIO. So I would ask you to check that. And with all due respect to you, we all know that the rhetoric going back and forth telling me what I'm going to do, let's just stick to the questions. I've answered it. And you can check my record and you can look at who I'm endorsed by.
Okay, guys, we are
that's
running
fine, well
out
and
of
good,
time.
but you're Monday morning quarterbacking. You know, you can say, what are you going to do down the road? Are you going to stop construction? You're penalized.
When did I say I was going to stop construction?
Okay, guys. Hi. Hey, everybody.
Good night,
The rest of my time. Let it go. Let it go on. Let it go on.
No, we are
Thank you,
running out
ma'am.
of time. We literally have 4 minutes left. We can do that after, but for right now, we are going to kind of stay on schedule. The last question that I have for everyone, and I'll go in the order that you are on my screen, is what do you want to say to the voters and what do you want to say to small businesses? We know that we have the state of small business today. And so speaking to small businesses, what do you want them to know going into 2021. And please limit it to 60 seconds max. And I'll start with Ms. Erica Pines, you're first on my screen.
What I want to say to voters is this race is about turnout. Right now, there are very few persuadable voters. People have locked into whose team they're on. So if you are voting for Warnock, listen. If you're not, close your ears. I need everyone to get every registered voter that they know to the polls starting on Monday. If they have not requested an absentee ballot, I need them to go vote in person. If they need an absentee ballot, I need them to contact the state party if they haven't yet requested it. We would prefer you take those ballots to the drop box because the post office can be a little slow, but we want every vote counted. This is about turnout. And we, as I mentioned earlier, we're in a hurry to get to January 5th so that we can start getting relief to those small businesses out there who are struggling because of poor leadership. So we need all of our voters to go to the polls starting on Monday, take everyone you know to the poll, start a Post a Peach project, vote for John Ossoff, vote for Raphael Warnock, and vote for Daniel Blackman. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, I have Mr. Ellis.
Say to the voters, you have the opportunity to make your voice heard. You have the opportunity to make known your preference and your choice. And I say to you, educate yourself. Make sure you know that you are going to the polls so that we can continue to give President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris the assistance they need. We do not need to make the same mistake we made when we elected President Obama. And we did not send the senators to help him, but senators who fought against him. So let's learn from our mistakes. Your vote is your voice. And that's what I would leave the voters with.
Okay, next, thank you so much, Mr. Ellis. Next, I have Mr. Blackman.
I want to speak to the people of Georgia. I want to thank you all for this forum, this opportunity, the platform. We have to fundamentally understand that this race has nothing to do with simply the fact that we're in a runoff. It has everything to do with struggling families that haven't had a chance to recover, with senior citizens who are struggling on a fixed income, with Democrats and Republicans that live in Juliet, Georgia, who are dealing with the coal ash challenge, with folks in Burke County, with folks all over this state, regardless of your political party, regardless of your race or your background. We understand three things that I want to close with. Number one, our children cannot be left behind because they are struggling to keep the lights on that their mothers or fathers or grandparents may not be able to take care of. And we also know that our small businesses are the lifeblood of our community. Our small businesses must be able to be viable and compete in coastal Georgia, including Glenn County and Chatham County. We've got to put the infrastructure in place to make sure that works. My name is Daniel Blackman. I'd love your support for the Public Service Commission on January 5th. But more importantly, do your homework. The Public Service Commission is a little known position. And I guarantee you, check the information out for yourself and vote Daniel Blackman on January 5th. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Blackman. Mr. MacDonald, you're next on my screen.
Thank you very much. And I am Lauren Bubba MacDonald. I'll be the only Bubba on the ballot on January the 5th. I've been a small business person all my adult life. I've met payrolls. I've had to struggle to meet payrolls, to keep the lights on. I know all that. I've been down that road, hands-on experience. But I've also know that we have taken care of the people of Georgia. The lights are on, the gas is flowing, and you are receiving as economic as you can have with clean, reliable. It's there, reliable. We've kept our bases with the solar program that went on all of our bases in the state of Georgia. That is tremendous. Fort Stewart, just out of Savannah, the 30 megawatts that went there. This keeps the BRAC Commission from coming down and taking that away. So look at my record. My record stands for itself, and I give myself to the people of Georgia to continue to work for you if you want me to. If you don't worry about me. I will have a biscuit when I'm not on the Georgia Public Service Commission, because that biscuit will be one that I've earned. My pension, my retirement from the Georgia Public Service Commission will be zero. Not one red penny will I get of my time on the Georgia Public Service. Thank you very much. If you want to vote for Bubba, he would appreciate it very much. I'll work for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. MacDonald. Mayor Johnson.
Well, first of all, thank you for hosting this. It's still very informative, and I appreciate the Jaycees. A year and 5 days ago, Savannahans made history in electing me to be the 67th mayor of the city of Savannah. It was history because more people returned for the runoff election that actually appeared for the general election. We know that this is a numbers game. It is all about turnout. It's only about turnout. And certainly you all have shown out again, particularly as next Monday, I will be going to Atlanta to be one of the electors for President-elect Joe Biden, which has not happened in 30 years. So your vote definitely does count. We're asking you for you to be informed voters, understand what the issues are. For us, we want to make sure that Savannah is not forgotten. We want to make sure that when we're looking at small businesses, that we have senators that know our names. When we're crying out for help through the CARES Act or through the HEROES Act, that we're able to funnel that money to small businesses to help keep their doors open. I've made small businesses a centerpiece of my administration. Certainly they felt the love from us, but we need help on all levels of government, at the Senate and certainly the Public Service Commission. So again, Savannah, Chatham County, do what you've been doing. Make the difference, turn out. There are many ways to do so. You can vote early in person. You can vote early absentee and drop it in a secure Dropbox. Don't put it in the mail, just put it in a Dropbox. And let's make sure that we're well represented, our voices are heard for the best candidates for us on January the 5th. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. On behalf of the Savannah Jaycees, I thank each of you for giving us your time tonight. We really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone that tuned in. Thank you to our moderator, Mr. Bowen.
Bo did a great job.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much to Catalina Garcia Quick for assisting behind the scenes. And thank you to every single Savannah Jaycee, because it takes a lot to put all this stuff together. Some important dates: election day for the U.S. Senate and Public Service Commission runoff is January 5th, 2021. You can vote in person starting December 14th, or you can vote on election day. You can also request an absentee ballot. Bo, do you have anything that you want to say? Any closing thoughts?
Just thanking the Savannah Jaycees for all their hard work in putting this important event together, and to please vote on January 5th.
Yes, do your homework, vote. Thank y'all. Our creed says service to humanity is the best work of life. So I'll end with that, and good night.
Thank you, Savannah Jaycees. Appreciate it.
Thank you.